So obviously when it comes to DEI and politics in video games, I myself has been pretty outspoken when it comes to a lot of it and how like stupid I think a lot of it is in video games, especially when it's like political statements that are being pushed onto the player that aren't really furthering the story or furthering the game in any way possible and actually makes it worse. I think that it's just completely stupid and unneeded in video games. And just recently, a few days ago, but it's only really picked up, I'd say over the last day, or at least since I have seen it, where the CCO of Arrowhead and the creative director of Helldivers 2. So this guy is a massive person, obviously. Helldivers 2 was one of the best games last year. Obviously, it made a bit of a slump after a few updates last year, but it has since made a resurgence with its latest update and has been very, very great. But a few days ago, on New Year's Day, he tweeted this out, saying, with 10 minutes to 2025, what are your expectations and desires for what the next Arrowhead game will be? I'm working on the high concept, but I would love to hear your speculations. And in the comments of that, someone replied to this saying, never add DEI to your games. To which then he seemingly replied to it a couple times saying that if it doesn't add to the game experience, it detracts. And games should be a pure pursuit of amazing moments. Completely agree. And then this person replies to it saying, how would DEI have benefited Helldivers 2, to which they say, I don't like labels, but mankind is united in extreme xenophobia on Super Earth, #inclusion, so maybe that's DEI, ? I really don't care, make good games, don't make a contemporary political statement. That right there is a great statement, and if anything, I don't see this statement as like any type of, pushing some political statement or trying to make some hot take. Really, the way that he worded this was extremely great. He wasn't going too hard on like a lot of other people do, maybe even you could say the way that I may do sometimes. He didn't just come out and blatantly say DEI is complete trash, it's shit, don't have it in video games, it has no place whatsoever. No, he says that he really doesn't care. All it matters is that make good games. Don't make contemporary political statements. And a lot of people did agree with this. I mean, this is one post right here saying, I really don't care, make good games. And it's obviously, the Giga Chad meme where someone's saying that. And a lot of people did have this kind of reaction to this tweet where they were very positive about this because they're like, yes, that's what we want. That's what actual gamers want. We don't want no political statements in these games that don't further the story. We just want people to make good games. But obviously, with anything that has relatively got to do with DEI, there's obviously going to be people who put backlash against this. And I think that they are completely stupid. One person here says, coming from the guy who made Helldivers 2, a game that mocks fascism and xenophobia, is hilarious. And then another person right here calling it the dumbest take of all time. And if you want to go ahead and like go onto his profile and look through some of the retweets, I recommend you go do so because I'm not really going to, put every single one there because they kind of just say the same thing. And I feel like a lot of these, whenever someone makes a great point, like I said, the way that he worded it was amazing and it was great and it was straight to the point. But a lot of people who were just retweeting what he said that disagree with him don't really have any good points to add to this. Most of them are just calling him a dumbass and saying, oh, Helldivers 2 is political as well, so you're just really going against your own point, which they themselves are stupid, and they're kind of contradicting what they're saying, and I'll explain why. And it's by a reply that I saw someone, I can't find the reply, but it was in like one of the many different retweets. Someone replied to one of the retweets saying there is a difference between a politically themed game and a political statement in a game. And that to me is a perfect representation of the difference between Helldivers and another game that is pushing a political statement. Because to a certain extent, Helldivers 2 is kind of like a politically themed game. Because you are Super Earth and you are trying to, take over the rest of the galaxy. It's basically xenophobia, space racism. But it's not pushing no political statement within the game. That's not what the game is really about. It's not trying to push some bullshit ideology that people don't care about. Yes, the game does have political themes in it, but there's nothing wrong with having a political themed game. We've seen this many times throughout the history of gaming where something like Fallout or Metal Gear. These are two great games, and I've said this multiple times whenever I've talked about DEI and political ideologies in video games as well, the difference between good and bad. And when it comes to great, Fallout and Metal Gear Solid are two great examples. Obviously, Metal Gear Solid, I'm not as knowledgeable as I am with Fallout, because I did get into Fallout a lot last year after the show came out. Then I started playing the games, and Fallout really, it is a politically themed game, and the show itself, the show goes into it even more, because obviously when it comes to the politics of Fallout, it's definitely more of like a side story, where the main story itself is more of you, you're finding your dad in Fallout 3. That's what Fallout 3 is. And then Fallout New Vegas, you're just trying to take revenge on the person that killed you. But when it comes to say the Fallout show, it goes more into the political themes of Fallout, where it's like these massive conglomerate companies are trying to push the apocalypse to help benefit themselves and their product. That itself is like a political messaging, where it's just like, big companies bad. Yes, big corporate companies, they are the bad. We need to conspire against big companies. That is pushing, it does have political themes in it, but it's not just blatantly putting a political statement straight in front of your face, like something like Dragon Age the Vanguard did. That whole Barv scene was one of the biggest jokes of last year. And then the whole scene where that Quinari chick sits at the table and opens up to her mum about how she's non-binary, and then bites back at her mum the whole entire time.
So, I'm non-binary.
Because she's trying to push a political statement. Dustborn is a great example of the whole entire game just being a political bullshit statement that no one cares about. And these are differences between great games and terrible games. The difference between a great politically themed game that takes a theme that is political and can be somewhat controversial, but does it in an amazing way. And then you have games like Dragon Age the Vanguard, Dustborn, Concord as well to a certain extent, and so many other games where all they're trying to do is push out some political statement, and they're wrapping their game around DEI. That is the massive difference that a lot of these people are not getting. And that is the difference between making a great game and just making some game where you're just trying to push a political statement, and the game itself is shit. Because if you put the political statement first, then it's not going to be great. Even when it comes to something like Fallout, yes, the political themes are there, but the forefront of the Fallout games is about the combat, is about the dialogue with the characters. It's about the quests that you go on. The exact same, like I said, I haven't played Metal Gear Solid as much as other people. I haven't really gotten into them, but I still know a decent amount about them because I've read a lot about them. I've seen a lot of gameplay about them over the years. And Metal Gear Solid, yes, it's a politically themed game, heavily politically themed game, but the combat in it is amazing. The stealth in it, the original Metal Gear Solid games are known as some of the greatest stealth games of all time. That's why they're good, because they're not just focused on one thing. They're focused on making great games. And that's why I think that what this guy said, what the CCO of Arrowhead said, is extremely correct. And I agree with him 110%. Make good games. Don't make a contemporary political statement. But I would definitely like to hear what you guys have to think about all this down below. What are your opinions when it comes to the whole DEI in video games? Do you like political statements in video games? Do you prefer them to be a little bit more on the hush side, more in the background? Do you just want them out of your video games at all? Let me know about what you think down below. That's going to be it for me. Make sure you guys like, subscribe, all that kind of stuff. Peace out.